So there's this beautiful and very amazing woman of God that I follow on social media. And the other day, I was watching one of her vlogs on YouTube, and she was just expressing how she has not been feeling like she's in no mood lately, and she's just feeling like she's so down. She doesn't feel like praying. She doesn't feel like reading the word. She just feels like she wants to sit down and just do nothing. And then it came to her, wait a minute, what if I check this application that I use to track where I am in my menstrual cycle? So she checked, and then she saw that she was in her late luteal phase. And then everything just made sense to her. She was like, oh my gosh, it just all makes sense now why I've been feeling this way. I thought I was going crazy, but I am not actually, guys. I just feel like this is something that just makes sense. So, knowing that story, I would invite you to think about a moment you felt this way. You feel like you don't feel like doing anything, everything does not make sense, you feel like you're going crazy, you just question God. Why is God making you go through this? God, why don't you put a stop and an end to this? Like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I feeling so down? So many questions that you don't have an answer to. And maybe like this lady, you have an app that allows you to know where you are in your cycle. Maybe you do not. And maybe sometimes you just have these questions a few days during the month, and then it goes by and life is good. And then you start over again when things get better just on their own. In today's video, we are going to talk about what these phases are, how you feel during them, and what to do and how to pray, and why does God allow us to go through these, like what are they for. And we are going to talk about different things that we can do in order to make every stage and every phase go and feel better. So welcome and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Madeleine. I am a faith-based content creator on YouTube, on Instagram, and on TikTok with the same username. So feel free to subscribe to the channel if you are all about working and living your life for God. So if you've been on the channel for some time now, hello, you know that this year God has given me a specific calling to talk about how to be a woman of God and how to understand how the woman body works. Not because I am a scientist or I am a doctor or I understand exactly how things work, but just because God is teaching me things and He gave me this mandate of sharing with my sisters and my brothers, because this can be helpful to you as well, brother. I am sharing what I'm learning so that we can all understand what God does on another level, things that we will not necessarily hear during a sermon at church. We talk about these things on this channel. Who knows? So next year I may be on another mandate, or maybe by the end of this year, but this is what I'm talking about. You are a lady or you are a brother trying to understand the ladies around you. And then there's these times during the month where you feel like you have energy, and then after that you feel like you do not, and then after that you feel like you do have energy again, and then after that you are bleeding. And unfortunately, most of the time we only care about the time we are bleeding, because that is the one we see, that is the one we have to tangibly take care of. But what if I were to tell you that you do not have a 5 days or 3 to 7 days clock, but you actually have a 28 to 35 days clock, depending on how long your cycle is? I already did a portion or a section on this video. It is up on my channel. You can go watch it. I can link it up here. And I also just have a playlist where I have been talking about these topics throughout the year, so you can go give them a look. Let's get into this topic right away. First, I want to get into scripture. So there's a scripture in Leviticus 15, verse 19 to 33, where it talks about the laws when a woman is bleeding. It talks about her not being pure for 7 days. It talks about everything that she touches is unclean. She has to be away. She has to be set aside. And if a man touches her, he is not clean for 7 days as well. Obviously, these are the laws of Moses, and we are past that. We are under the covenant of Jesus, and these laws are not ours anymore. But sometimes I just think, if in today's days you were given 7 days when you are bleeding to be set aside and to be doing just nothing, would you not take it? That's a question. I I asked myself this question and I'm going to answer for myself. And you can answer for yourself or you can answer in the comment section if you're comfortable with that. Let's just keep that in mind as we are going through this video, because you understand, or maybe you don't fully understand what goes into you when you are bleeding and the days before and the days after. And honestly, I just think it makes sense to have 7 days apart. God knows what he does. And I don't know about you, what you're watching right now, but as you can see, I'm enjoying the natural sunlight and I have my homemade lemonade here. So feel free to grab a drink and sip as we go through this. So as a lady, you would definitely go through more than just your menstrual cycle or just the day where you're bleeding. You actually have 4 phases that goes on in your life. So if you want to start from the time when you're bleeding, I will actually invite you to watch this video with a notebook and a pen or with an app if you're using one. I'm not going to talk about any app here because I'm not sponsoring nothing. I just want to show you and I just want to give you the big picture of how things happen. You have 2 main phases, if we can say. You have the follicular and the luteal phase. In your follicular, you have the menstrual where you're shedding. So this is where you're bleeding. These are the days where you have to put your pads and tampons on. Ladies, we're using words here because we're a woman of God and God allowed these things to happen and we have to talk about them. We actually have to talk about them. I volunteer myself as a sister in Christ that's going to come on the screen and talk about these things, because we cannot just assume that we know and then learn about it other ways from the world, but we don't talk about it. So you have these days where you are taking care of yourself and everyone is different. It goes from 3 to 7 days or maybe more, depending on who you are. So you're going to take a pen and a book, write it down. If you don't know how long your cycle is yet, next time you're bleeding, you can start counting from there. You can start noticing what's going on. The first day you're bleeding, the last day you're bleeding, how many days are you bleeding? And then you can count that for an average of 3 to 6 months to know what your average is and what is the length. Your menstrual cycle in totality is from your first day that you're bleeding today to the day before your next bleeding. So that's how you can determine how long is your length. So obviously, again, you do that for a couple of months to know what your average is. Yes, you can do an app for this, but honestly, a pen and a book does it. And if you live in a safe place where you can have your calendar somewhere on your fridge or somewhere in the house, you can also do it that way. So you circle the dates and then you name them and you label them for what they are. So that is the first. And obviously, we can maybe also talk about hygiene. How do you take care of yourself during these days? Because as a woman of God, you have to be clean inside and out. But this is going to be another video. If you actually want me to talk about that, please let me know in the comment section. So these are the days that you are bleeding. So obviously during these days, you don't feel like your best. You're just so tired. And this is when people are going to experience so much weakness, because you are losing blood, you are losing iron, therefore you are losing strength. Obviously, everyone is not like that. Not everyone has low iron during that time. But what is recommended for you is to eat some steak, some red meat, so you can replenish that low iron and then you can feel your best. But then as a woman of God, yes, those things are from science. And then you may experience that. Don't get me wrong. But then at the same time, we have to pray God for strength. Even if you do eat the steak, you need to ask God to use that to give you even more strength, because as your job, for example, you need more than usual strength. Okay, we have to accompany these with prayers as well. Lord, Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. This is when this Bible verse comes in place during that time. So you do this for a couple of months. Now you know how many days you're bleeding for, and then you can also determine how long is your cycle. Again, it's from the first day you're bleeding to the day before the next month you're bleeding. So this is your menstrual phase. So you want to call your blood shedding phase. The next one, still in your follicular then keeps extending from after the day you're done bleeding to the day you release an egg. The follicular phase is basically where it says you're releasing a follicle that has a mature egg that could be ready for to meet something. Okay. During this time, you may feel like you're starting to gain some energy because you definitely feel a bit more energy than when you were during your menstrual phase, but then you're starting to approach your ovulation phase. And this is where you actually reach your peak of energy and of strength. You're slowly getting there. You have your estrogen levels that are high. After your menstruations, you can feel like you're starting to feel like yourself again. But then here, as a woman of God, you know that your identity is not how you feel, but it is what you know. Knowledge over feelings as a woman of God. You may feel like you're starting to feel like yourself again, but you know that at all times you are a woman of God. At all times you are a child of God. At all times you are Psalms 139, wonderfully and fearfully made. Here from day 11 to day 14, again depending on everybody, you have your ovulation phase. This is when the mature egg is released and is ready to meet the opposite gender thing. But then in this, yes, you do feel like you have energy. And then as I mentioned in the previous videos, we are going to spend so much time on the ovulation phase because this is where it gets dangerous for my single sisters, because you feel attracted, you feel attractive, you feel like you want to go out there, you feel like you want to explore more things, you want to be adventurous, you want to try different things, you want to do this and that. And this is where it gets dangerous because you feel some sort of ways that you cannot deny that is the way God created you. And then you feel like there's some urges that you have in you that you do not have in the other phases. And let me tell you, sister, we are going to spend some time on this phase because you need to know what to avoid, what to do as a woman of God, so you don't find yourself in situations where you're like, oh, I did not even see that coming. I don't know how that happened. There's ways to avoid that, and there's ways that we can dive into this. Subscribe to the channel if you have not, because these videos will definitely come back. Enjoy these few days because you are going to feel like you can conquer the world, right? You can do it all. But then this is where you want to be careful as a child and as a woman of God, because you don't necessarily have to do everything that you feel like doing. This verse in Corinthians that says everything is allowed, but not, and I shouldn't be doing everything. Which means you may feel like you want to do everything, but it's God really calling you to do everything. This is between you and God. So in this moment, you want to be careful to know that you are to preserve yourself from doing things that God is not asking you to do, or God is not calling you to do, or that things that are not aligned with His character and with your relationship with Him. In this season and in this phase, you want to be very careful while still enjoying all this energy, all this peak of energy that you have, and walk with Christ with all that boldness that is in you. After this, you have your luteal phase from the day after your ovulation till the day before your next period. This again, you are prepping for a potential pregnancy, because in this moment your progesterone are very high, and when you have a very high peak of progesterone, this is when you're getting ready for pregnancy, because progesterone is this hormone that basically helps to keep the placenta healthy in place and all the other things. And here I want to pause and look and admire and be in awe of God's creature. Because look at how these stages and these phases are aligned. Some people in science, they may look at this and be like, it just makes sense. You're done with this phase, you're going on to the next one. It just makes sense that when you have a very high level of this type of hormone, you have a very low level of the other one. It just makes sense. But it does not just make sense. It is well ordained and it is perfect because it was orchestrated by a perfect God. Because in this season, yes, you don't feel like you have as much energy as in your ovulation phase, but you don't feel like as your lowest as in the menstrual phase. But you just know that you are well taken care of. You know that you are releasing hormones that you need in this season, and you don't even have to do anything. That's the most beautiful thing about it, is that you don't have to do anything. Yes, you have to control your nutrition. And if this is something that you want us to talk about, please let me know in the comment section. We can definitely do another section of what kind of alimentation you should have. And again, not because I'm an expert, but just because, again, I am learning and I want to share this with my beautiful sisters that may or may not know. If you're a teenager, a single lady, you're married, wherever you are, this can be helpful for anybody. This phase it goes on for a couple of days. It can be up to 2 weeks. Again, every single person is different, but on average, that's what it is. With your calendar, with your pen and a notebook, this is what you can write down for a couple of months, and then target, label what you're going through, journal it, write it down, how you're feeling, the date, do you see a pattern the next month. Do that for a couple of months and then have your average ready. You need to know how your body works. You need to know what it is doing, because then you will understand what God is doing. Then it will make sense when God is calling you to do something. But hey, you are in the perfect phase to be able to be adventurous and go do it. And even when you are not adventurous to do it, how do I pray in order to still be used by God? When you're feeling down and God may be calling you to rest, hey, I answer and I rest and I step back. I am not expected to always be on the go 30 days a month, because that is not how God created me to do. That is not what He created me to be. He created me to have times of work, time of rest, just like the 6 days of work and 1 day of Sabbath. God is an intentional God. God is a loving and caring God. And God does not do anything out of the proportion or just out of nowhere. But then I want to be thoughtful of the ladies that may not have regular cycles. You may be watching this and you're like, oh, Madeleine, this is great. But for me, I am tracking my cycle for months and I'm still not able to know what is the length of my cycle. And I want to say, sister, I am praying for you. I pray that God heals you. I pray that God comes and answers what He is doing. And I want to remind you of the woman that was bleeding for 12 years. Not saying that this is going to happen to you for 12 years. Maybe you have been going through this for more than 12 years, but I want to remind you of this story because of the healing that is available through this story. Because there is a healing, there is a transformation, and God can still do miracles. God can still do amazing things, whether you are regular or irregular. Keep tracking, keep working with God, keep working in partnership with Him so you can understand why things are happening this way, what He can do better. Because I've also heard stories and there's miracles happening. I've also heard stories of women that were having irregular cycles before that now have regular cycles. Whether it is the way you're eating, the activities you're doing, the things you are doing on a daily basis that can be preventing you or stopping you from having regular cycles. Things are possible to change for you. So I just want to share this message of hope for you that is watching, sister, that do not give up. You still can do the tracking and everything that we talked about in this video, but it might look a little bit different for you, but that is okay, because at the end of the day, we are all different. Even if some of us have regular cycles, but it will always be different from the other lady. So I do wanted to share that today. So when you feel like you have all the energy of the world, or when you feel like you're so down you cannot even pray, push, but do not push alone, push with God, because Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. And you can also find me on Instagram and on TikTok, where I post more consistently. I have the biblical talks here every Sunday, or maybe I should say every other Sunday. And I am so happy to see you here. Comment away in the comment section if you have something to add, if you have any comments, or if you have anything to share that could help the other people watching and scrolling down the comments. Again, it was such a pleasure to speak with you from wherever you're watching. God bless you, and I will see you soon. Bye.